Keanu Reeves feels like director Lana Wachowski made fun of the Matrix in The Matrix Resurrections. But what does Neo actually mean? What's going on, Matrix fans? Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, the Viking. Make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for a brand new video every single day. The Matrix Resurrections was a very mixed movie. Some people loved it, some people absolutely hated it. And they said that Lana Wachowski sabotaged her own movie. She made it bad on purpose so that it would kill off the franchise because she didn't want to do any more. I don't think that's the case. I don't believe Lana Wachowski came back and deliberately made a bad movie for the franchise to be killed off. Because for me, Matrix Resurrections is a great movie. I absolutely love it. The symbolism, the deeper meaning, the exploration of Neo and Trinity, of the Matrix, of this new Matrix, a reflection of today's society with technology. It's a fantastic film. I really enjoyed it. I really did. And yes, there's a legal battle going on right now for the rights of the Matrix franchise between one of the financiers of the Matrix Resurrections and financiers of many Warner Brothers movies and with Warner Brothers themselves. But in terms of the Matrix Resurrections and people's argument that Lana decided to make fun of her own movie, her own creation, is a little bit true. Because The Matrix Resurrections isn't your typical reboot, sequel, remake. Instead of giving people exactly what they wanted about what they loved from the first three movies, she went against that and she's decided to do something different. The easy thing for Lana Wachowski to do is come back to The Matrix after nearly 20 years and play it safe. Slow-mo kick, bullet time, Neo doing his Superman flying. That would have been the easy option for Lana Wachowski to do and build a movie around those things and make sure that they are done beautifully and entertaining. So then people walk out of The Matrix Resurrections and say, it was good, I really enjoyed it. I liked how they brought back some of the older stuff, but it didn't really have anything new, but I still enjoyed it. But Lana Wachowski decided to make a sequel to an ongoing franchise, but in a very unique way. She didn't have the emphasis on the slow-mo kick and the 360 cam. She didn't have bullet time. She didn't have the Superman Neo shot until maybe the very last shot in the movie. She went against everything that Hollywood has made sequels, remakes and reboots about. Completely. She decided to do a unique take on that type of movie, and I really enjoyed it. People came out of The Matrix Resurrections, people who didn't like it, and complained that it wasn't the movie that they wanted. It wasn't the movie that they had in their head. So automatically, instead of accepting that and kind of watching the movie for what it was, they hated it because it wasn't what they wanted. It didn't have those cool elements that made the movie awesome. And I appreciate that from Lana Wachowski because it's actually a risk to do that. It is. With such a loved franchise, with such a big franchise, to go against the grain and to give us something completely different. She didn't want to make the typical sequel or remake or reboot. She wanted to try something new. And with bullet time and the slow-mo 360 cam or the Superman flying shots, those things are amazing, but we've seen them before. We have. So Lana Wachowski didn't see the point of expanding on those things in The Matrix Resurrections because, in a way, Lana Wachowski's commentary was that, yes, I brought forward these things in the original trilogy, and at the time it was revolutionary to cinema and it was amazing and people were in absolute awe, But over the last 20 years, we have seen it. Other creators, other directors have taken inspiration from the original trilogy and have done it, maybe even in better ways at times. So Lana Wachowski was like, what's the point of me doing it again? There is no point. People have done it since the last Matrix movie. So what would make it special? We've seen Superman movies, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman. We've seen slow-mo. We've seen the 360 cam shots. We've seen this stuff countless times. So what's the point of me making the Matrix Resurrections and having those same things? What would make my movie special if I just rehashed what made the popular movies popular? And other directors have done it since. So she was like, no, I have bullet time and I'm going to change it up. I'm going to have the analyst talk about bullet time and how he learned it from Neo. And I actually think that's a commentary from Lana Wachowski about directors who learned from the Wachowskis, who learned from the original Matrix trilogy and decided to put those things in their movies. So Neo is Lana Wachowski several times in this movie, and the analyst, in a way, is the other creators, is the other directors, other writers of other movies that have taken the Matrix movies as their blueprint and used those elements to make them elevate in terms of what they're doing. So Lana Wachowski was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And people went against it. People shit on it big time, which I found funny because their argument about the movie wasn't that the movie is bad because of A, B, and C. The movie is bad because of X, Y, and Z, because I wanted those things in the movie and they never appeared. But I appreciate the Matrix Resurrections because it went deeper into the character study of Thomas Anderson, of Tiffany, which was Carrie-Anne Moss as Trinity. I did like that. I really did. And in terms of Neo, Thomas Anderson being upset at his life, this constant cycle, the same thing over and over again, of people making him do things that he does not want to do. Hence the scene between Lana, Thomas Anderson, and Smith, which could be Lily Wachowski, her sister, or her agent, basically telling her, if you don't make a new Matrix movie, they're going to do it with or without you. The studio, Warner Brothers, are going to do it, which did happen in real life. They wanted to make a new Matrix movie. The Wachowskis would not return, but they set it in motion anyway, with Michael B. Jordan. But only later did Lana Wachowski say, yes, I'll come back, because they were going to give her baby, her creation, to somebody else to play with. So Lana felt the need to come back. And I've talked about this before in terms of, do the Wachowskis feel like that they have to come back to the franchise every 10 years now? Because if they don't, somebody else will use what they built. And it's getting that way. I predict we will get a Matrix movie without the Wachowskis. I predict we will get a series without the Wachowskis. And I predict Keanu Reeves will not return. Because I don't think Keanu Reeves will return unless the Wachowskis will. And Keanu Reeves thinks that Lana Wachowski will not return. But he has something very interesting to say about the possibility of Matrix 5 and about Lana Wachowski making fun of the entire franchise of The Matrix. And of course, these clickbait articles would have it saying that Keanu Reeves felt that Lana Wachowski made fun of The Matrix with The Matrix Resurrections. So you automatically think that, oh, Keanu Reeves hated The Matrix movie. I don't think so. I like how The Matrix Resurrections is so different from 1, 2, and 3. It's an exploration, it's a character study of Thomas Anderson, of life, of technology, of the constant cycle of doing the same thing over and over again, and of people making you do stuff that you don't want to do. And I think many people, including myself, can relate to Thomas Anderson. And also Morpheus as well went through something similar. Going to the coffee shop or the noodle shop and having your meal alone, but scrolling through your Instagram or your Twitter or whatever it is. Many people do this. Or even the scene with Thomas Anderson in the elevator and everybody's attached to their iPad, their iPhone, their iWatch, their laptop, whatever, while he's looking around looking for a connection. And he gets that connection with Tiffany, Trinity, in Simulate, which was pretty sweet and also tragic to see these two characters that we've been with for 3 movies, who love each other so much, have been through so much, but don't even remember each other. And they feel this connection, but there's so many external factors that's stopping that. Tiffany and her kids and her husband and stuff like this. And it's amazing how Thomas Anderson was kept in the Matrix with the blue pill, while Tiffany didn't have any blue pills at all. She was kept in the Matrix by motherhood, by being a mother. She had to be there for her kids, for her husband. And that's how the analyst kept her contained within the Matrix. But Thomas Anderson needed the blue pill. He needed the anxiety relief. So there's so much to explore in the Matrix movie. Resurrections deserves a rewatch. It deserves countless watches because there's so much there. And every time I watch it, I pick up new things, new nuances by Keanu Reeves as Thomas Anderson. And for me, it's the best Matrix movie since the original, and I feel very strongly about that. But we have this article from cheatsheet.com with the title, Keanu Reeves felt that Lana Wachowski made fun of The Matrix with The Matrix Resurrections. Recently, Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss reprised their roles as Neo and Trinity, respectively, in The Matrix Resurrections. The movie didn't garner the same amount of critical acclaim as the original Matrix. However, the cast and crew were still proud of what they were able to achieve. Reeves, in particular, felt that The Matrix Resurrections might have been making fun of The Matrix, but in a good way. Why Keanu Reeves was hesitant about a fourth Matrix movie. A Matrix sequel took a while to hit the big screen. Since the end of the original trilogy, there have been mullings of a fourth film, but nothing came to fruition. In an interview with Sunday Morning Herald, Reeves shares how he discussed starring in a fourth Matrix movie with the studio, but he wasn't sure he wanted to do it if he wasn't told what he wanted to hear. But for me, I had hesitancy in being involved in something that wasn't signed off by the Wachowskis, Reeves said, so I was grateful and thrilled when Lana gave me the call. He also explained what about the story sold him on the anticipated sequel. It was all about the love story, he continued. Lana's desire to bring Neo and Trinity together again and the feeling that it could be good medicine for her, for the story, and potentially for the audience. In an interview with Empire, Moss and Reeves were asked when the two truly felt like they were back in the Matrix, but the Bill and Ted actor never stopped feeling like he was in the Matrix movie, though he still saw some notable differences between the two, namely the humour. In terms of the text, I always felt like I was in a Matrix film. It struck me how much more humour there was in the text and seeing the movie, Reeves said. It was really, I thought, delightful. A nice added ingredient to the feast. Just some more humour. Lana Wachowski was also making fun of the Matrix as well, which I thought was great. The jury still seems to be out in regards to a sequel to Resurrections. Reeves doesn't know exactly what the director's thinking, but he's leaning one way more than the other. I don't believe so, Reeves said when asked about a fifth film. If I had to cast a ballot, no, not a ballot, a vote, I would say that Lana would not do another Matrix movie. But Moss reminded Reeves that the two thought Resurrections wouldn't happen either. We don't know. But I'm there if it's there, Reeves added. So Keanu Reeves loved The Matrix. He loved the added ingredient of humour, which I actually did appreciate in the movie as well. It wasn't over the top. It wasn't like laugh out loud stuff, but it was subtle and I enjoyed it. But Keanu Reeves loved the movie. But there's something very interesting about this interview when he talks about returning to the Matrix. He always felt he was in the Matrix movie when making the Matrix Resurrections, but the studio Warner Brothers wanted him to return, but he didn't want to listen to them. He only wanted to return to the Matrix if the Wachowskis were coming back too. Which Lana Wachowski did, so Keanu Reeves wanted to come back as well, but without them, he didn't want to. And I bet you the 2017 movie that they wanted to do with Michael B. Jordan did include Keanu Reeves, but Keanu Reeves didn't want to do it unless the Wachowskis wanted to do it as well. And he does not think that the Matrix 5 will happen with Lana Wachowski. And if Lana Wachowski does not return, then Keanu Reeves will not return either. So I think Warner Brothers, the studio, will make a fifth Matrix movie. I think they'll make a series. But I don't think Keanu Reeves will be involved unless the Wachowskis return also. But he is betting that Lana Wachowski will not return for a fifth movie. Why is that? Well, she never wanted to return for Resurrections in the first place. But eventually she did because the story was speaking to her because she lost her parents, and she eventually did. But her sister Lily did not want to return. And I've talked about this battle between the creator and their product, their baby. The Matrix would have been given to somebody else, with or without the Wachowskis, with or without Keanu Reeves. And that's something that has to be hard to tackle for the Wachowskis. Could you imagine if you created something or owned something that's unique and nobody else has, but then it was taken away from you and given to somebody else because you wouldn't use it anymore? How would you feel? How would you feel about that? That's the battle the Wachowskis have to go through, because if they don't come back to the stuff that they created, somebody else will use it and they can't have it anymore. The inevitable will happen, where a Matrix movie comes out and it will have no Keanu Reeves, Carrie-Anne Moss, or the Wachowskis attached. And that's the harsh reality that the Wachowskis have to face. So I just think that's a little bit sad in a way. And it's something that we got to see in the Matrix Resurrections, where Thomas Anderson, the game developer, the creator of the Matrix games, had no intentions to make a fourth. But the higher-ups, the suits, Warner Brothers, wanted him to. And if he didn't, then they're going to get someone else to do it. So I love how that mirrors real life, and it's also pretty sad how it mirrors real life as well. Could you imagine what else is going on within Warner Brothers in terms of the Matrix franchise and the battle the Wachowskis will have to hold on to the thing that they created? It's going to be very interesting what happens to the future of the Matrix, and the Wachowskis might not be there to create it. And Keanu Reeves will not come back unless the Wachowskis do as well. Because I don't think the Wachowskis are driven by money. And I don't think Keanu Reeves is driven by money either. They wanted to come back to the Matrix because of the story, the unique story that Lana Wachowski had. It's unique in terms of sequels, remakes, and reboots. And she wanted to make it, and she did, and it's beautiful. But guys, what's your thoughts on Keanu Reeves' comments about Lana Wachowski made fun of the Matrix in the Matrix Resurrections, but she did it in such a great way? And he also thinks that Matrix 5 will not happen with Lana Wachowski, but if it does happen, he's there, he will do it 100%. But if they're not, the Wachowskis, he won't be coming back. And what do you think happens to the future of the Matrix without the Wachowskis and without Keanu Reeves? I don't know if I'm too interested in a Matrix movie with no Neo, Thomas Anderson, or Keanu Reeves. But hope is not lost, because we never thought we would get a Matrix 4, and we have. The Matrix Resurrections came out. Ridley Scott made Blade Runner with Harrison Ford. That movie flopped, didn't make any money. But later a sequel was announced, Blade Runner 2049, with a different director, Denis Villeneuve. And for me that movie's a masterpiece. But it didn't make money either. But we've heard recently that Ridley Scott is coming back to the Blade Runner universe to direct and create a series, Blade Runner 2099. So never say never for the Wachowskis, never say never for Keanu Reeves, and also never say never to somebody else taking up the Matrix mantle and making a masterpiece like Denis Villeneuve did with 2049. There is awesome creators out there. It's just, I hope the Wachowskis don't stop now. I hope sometime in the future they decide to come back on their own terms and make something unique and beautiful again, because it's going to be very hard to find a director, a writer, a creator that has the social commentary, the deeper underlying meaning that the Wachowskis have brought to their franchise. And it mirrors society, and society seems to mirror the Matrix, and it's very fascinating. But guys, would you watch a Matrix movie without the Wachowskis? A series without the Wachowskis and without Keanu Reeves? What's your thoughts on that, guys? Thanks for watching. Thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.